See, this is the thing I realized is that we don't really know what countries are capable of until it actually happens.
Right.
We've just been in this, we've just been talking so long, like, yeah, America can do all this stuff and do everything. And nobody was really aware of the capabilities of Russia or North Korea or Iran. And now it's starting to unravel. But most people haven't really caught on because they're not paying as close attention as we are. Like, I didn't even know about hypersonic missiles until, a couple of years ago when we were talking about it and learning it about this war, and then realizing that the United States doesn't have these things, and then learning about air defenses and drones, that we are in this new modern warfare, and we have to recalculate, recalibrate military power around the globe. And most people aren't able to make that calculation because they're not spending the time looking at it and realizing, like, hey, the dollar value doesn't mean that much. Tanks don't mean that much, helicopters really don't mean that much. It's like, now it's like, who can pump out drones, who can pump out air defense interceptors, who can develop hypersonic missiles and invade them. That's kind of the new game.
Right. Well, you can remember, there are all kinds of weapons that were introduced to the Ukraine battlefield, with a great deal of fanfare. And one after another, they've, fizzled out and they've proved to be duds, right? We've talked at first. It was HIMARS, it was the Javelin anti-tank missiles, it was the small diameter guided bombs. It was now ATACMS. It's one thing after another, and also there were these Predator drones that actually Turkey supplied in great number, that they had proved to be very effective in the Armenia-Azerbaijan war. But they were just absolutely useless because they were up against a very sophisticated air defense system. So they were just immediately shot out of the sky. They didn't do anything. But that's just one of many examples. One thing after another is fizzled in Ukraine. And again, a lot of these were introduced with a great deal of confidence. So yeah, who knows? Like the B-2 bomber, it was developed decades ago, and technology has progressed. I'm sure that the Russians have figured out a way to detect it. They just may be as obvious as daylight to them when it flies in, over their air defense systems, and they might find it very easy to shoot down. I can't know for sure, but that I wouldn't be at all confident that it's really all that effective. And maybe, the Russians have supplied and the Iranians themselves have developed, ways of detecting these so-called stealth aircraft.
Right. Yeah, we just really don't know. But everything we've seen is that actually the U.S. has come up wildly short in our sort of touted capability against Russia, and Iran is, by association with Russia, is sharing that technology. And I was just thinking the other day as well. We were talking a lot about the THAAD system, and there's a lot of chatter about it and it being deployed there to tripwire or whatever. But I was just thinking, it just makes no sense for America to send a THAAD interceptor here. This is a new weapon, very, very expensive. It was something touted, maybe one, supposed to maybe kind of a jewel of our military industrial complex, something we can show off at expos and make a lot of money selling them, because they sure cost well over $1 billion for the system. And you said each interceptor costs $12.6 million. And it's like, you should, now we will send the system there. And we know that we don't have the interceptors there to really stop a volley. There's maybe something 40 interceptors there.
Yeah, 48, I think.
50 or 50,
but you can't. Yeah. The thing is, you can't fire them all at once. They have a certain number of launchers. I don't know how many they can fire at a time.
So the only reason that if I was in charge of the military industrial complex, the only time that I would want to put a system into play is if I know with a high degree of certainty that it's going to perform well, because this is my sales pitch to the world for the military industrial complex. Watch this new fancy system. Iran's going to launch 100 missiles. Boom, 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 boom. We shoot them all out of the sky. Great.
Right.
Then it's a huge victory for you and that system. Instead, what it's going to do the exact opposite. You supply this huge system and it's going to do nothing. And people are like, I don't want to buy this thing. It's clearly worthless. The Houthis can get by it. Why would I spend, $10 billion on that equipment, if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
And I was
Well,
trying to
the thing is, we just don't know. Yeah, like you, I'm very skeptical. I don't think it will work, but we just
well,
don't know. It's been untested in combat conditions. That's the
they
thing.
supposedly it has. Supposedly, I was trying to do
Okay.
some research. Take it with a grain of salt. I talk to ChatGPT way too much, and sometimes it just tells me bogus stuff. But it does seem to be true that there was an incident in 2020. I think was it 2022? I forget. Maybe earlier. But that where the Houthis launched an attack at Saudi Arabia, and they had a THAAD system, and it intercepted one ballistic missile. Only one, from what I understand, confirmed.
Okay.
And it was a mixed volley that the Houthis launched of cruise missiles, drones, and a few ballistic missiles, and it only took out one ballistic missile. So I think that's not really a success, because it said that there was actually damage and there were casualties, that the Houthis were successful in their strike. So we're talking about a small barrage, and this THAAD thing didn't do it.
I seem to remember something about that. I know the Patriots also failed miserably at that time, and the Saudis were really angry about that. They had spent so much on the Patriots, and these drones got by it. Said, "Well, we didn't design it for drones,"
Yeah, and so what did you design it? And also, something I did learn about. I think you probably learned it from Alexander McCurse as well. It's just like the Russian air defense system, the S-300, S-400. We use these names as if they're a single model. But apparently how it works is that they're all different types of, it's a huge, massive network of integrated systems with different missiles and interceptors for different things. So this system is capable for, parts of it are designed for shooting down aircraft. Other ones are ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, whatever. It's a complete kind of system that evolves over time. It's a continually upgraded system.
And some
S-300s
were developed way back in the 80s. But others much more recently. So some of them are really quite sophisticated, and even the older ones really were quite good. Ukraine has proven that.
Right. What I heard is actually the S-300. You can use that term, but the S-300 systems in Iran, for example, are being upgraded. So it's like it's not kind of one thing like, okay, you toss out your new iPhone and get a new one. No, it's like they're getting new missile updates, components, plug and play kind of things, and continual updates. So that S-300 system is not all 80s tech, it's...
Right, absolutely. Some of it is quite recent. There's some question, there was reports that the Russians had supplied S-400s to Iran, and then later reports denied this. So we don't know, but it might not really matter. Like you say, it's just sort of that's just semantics, it's just a different label. But the S-300 system, especially if upgraded, may be more than sufficient.
Yeah, it just everything that the U.S. is doing, if you are pro-U.S., U.S. might and, military dominance, whatever, it's just the decisions we make are just so poor. If you want to even keep that illusion of military strength, the way we're doing it is so bad, like piecemealing little bits of equipment to Ukraine for the Russians to learn how to dismantle them and counter them. And now we're doing the same thing with this THAAD system. It's not going to do like the MIC's in trouble, right? Who's going to buy military equipment now from the U.S. if it costs so much and it doesn't work?
I think if the MIC had their druthers, if they could make the decision, I don't think that THAAD would have gone to Israel. I think it was a political decision. We've speculated about whether it's supposed to be a tripwire or something similar, but it may be just something. I think probably the most likely explanation is the most obvious and stupid explanation, and it's just that that's domestic politics, and the Biden-Harris administration wants to show its commitment to Israel. So they just announced with a great deal of fanfare that we're sending them the best, air defense missile system in the world, and the THAAD. And this is supposed to show our rock-solid support for Israel. I think that's the most likely, just upon reflection, the most likely explanation.
You think someone would tell them, like, hey, maybe this is a good idea.
They don't listen,
not get it's not going to get the job done, and it's going to look bad for America,
Yeah, but it's just, I think we just see this again and again. The civilians, I think it's the military people, most of them are waking up. Not the British military. They seem to have the dumbest defense secretaries in the world. There's this guy, what's his, Lummy, and the one who preceded him, Ben Hodges. These guys seem to really, don't seem to even understand what they have and what's, you'll get a, I think better grasp of reality from our podcast or a number of other podcasts than you'll get from listening to these guys. They just inhabit a completely delusional world. But it's the world that a lot of civilian leaders still inhabit. They're still living in the unipolar moment. They're still living. It's part of the kind of the kind of the remnants. I guess it's not quite right to remnants, but it's reflective of Western hegemony. They don't understand that Western hegemony has been challenged. They're still living in the world where it's unchallenged, and they just really can't drop that mindset. Even when people start showing them statistics or whatever, it's just like, there must be some explanation for that because we're the West, we're number one.
Right. Yeah, I think our military leaders are not really military leaders; they're politicians. That's the problem.
Oh yeah, very few of them. They just, the people that rise to the top here just seem to be they're just kind of PR guys. They just don't seem to have any substance. These people are not at all impressive. Macron is somebody who actually I think understands some things. If occasionally something comes out of his mouth, it shows that he kind of grasps reality. But in the end, he's just a creature of that same establishment, and he's not somebody that is really ever going to go out on a limb to fight that establishment. So if they're not stupid, they're spineless.